Emperor Honorius, regarded by many as one of the worst Roman emperors of all time. But why? Was he an idiot that was too immature? Or was he a leader plagued by bad luck? Today we will look deep into Honorius' character, discuss his traits, how he fared as Augustus, and why was his reign so bad. Let us begin. Honorius was born on September the 9th, 384 in Constantinople, the imperial capital of the Roman Empire. His father was Theodosius I, the ruler of the Roman Empire, and his mother was
Aelia Flacillina,
the first wife of Theodosius I. Honorius was an introvert. He probably struggled with communicating with others. He also is a more observant character, as he probably liked observing situations. But one weakness of Honorius was he could be easily manipulated or influenced by others around him. This weakness would prove costly in Honorius' time as emperor, but for now, he doesn't have to worry. Or he thought. Honorius was not given much time or education before being crowned junior emperor in 393. But worse for the young junior emperor, his father soon passed away just 2 years later, meaning the inexperienced and immature Honorius took the throne. After the death of his father, Honorius and his brother Arcadius took the throne, bringing an end to the 300-year-old Roman Empire. Honorius' first few years were quite uneventful. Granted, this made sense. He was still a child, so he didn't do much and left most of the work to other influential people. One of them was Stilicho, a Vandal Roman commander who was tasked with the defense of the empire. But we'll talk about him at a later point. With those sorted, Honorius' first job was to find out where would the capital city of the empire be. The obvious choice would be Rome. This is the Roman Empire after all. But Rome simply wasn't as important as it used to be, and it was quite undefended, allowing barbarians to come and besiege the city. So Honorius chose Mediolanum because of its location, allowing Honorius to access the Italian front while still being and having control of Italy. With that sorted, Honorius wouldn't have to worry about anything else. Just kidding, it's the Western Roman Empire, so you know what that means. In 389, Gildo launched a revolt in Africa. Thankfully for Honorius, the rebellion was crushed by Stilicho, and the Western Roman Empire was in peace for 2 years. In 401, Alaric I of the Visigoths soon launched an invasion into Italy, which reached Mediolanum. Seeing the writing on the wall, Honorius relocated the capital to Ravenna, which was much more defended due to the marshes around it. Thankfully for the emperor, Stilicho came back yet again, and Alaric was soon defeated, but was still allowed to escape south. The invasion was over, but sadly for Honorius, it was only going to get far, far worse. In 406 AD came a massive invasion into Gaul by the Vandals, Swabians, and Alans. Weirdly enough, Stilicho wasn't really that active during this time. Sure, he did defeat the Ostrogoths later, but he didn't really do much against this invasion. Either way, the Rhine frontier was completely collapsed, and the barbarians could now freely settle in the Western Roman Empire. The Swabians managed to cross the mountains into Spain, but they settled in Galicia. The Vandals also crossed the mountains and took Granada from the empire. While Stilicho was able to achieve a victory against the Ostrogoths, this didn't change much. The empire was on a downward spiral, and it would only get worse. In Gaul, the destabilization by the Germans allowed Constantine III to launch a revolt in Britain and invade Gaul. Seeing the collapse, the Visigoths tried again and reached Rome itself, and the city was only saved by paying a hefty ransom to the Visigoths. Meanwhile, in the east, news came. Arcadius had died. and so a meeting was set in Ravenna to decide the empire's move. Stilicho suggested that he should go to Constantinople by himself, so that Arcadius' son, Theodosius II, could be on the throne, but Olympius accused Stilicho of treasonous plans and convinced the emperor to execute Stilicho in 408 AD. With no leader, the Italian front was vulnerable, and so the Visigoths pounced. Despite hopes of negotiating peace, Olympius yet again sabotaged that and convinced Honorius that he could win the war. So Alaric and his men besieged Rome, and not long later, Rome was sacked by the Visigoths. The sack sent shock across the empire. Rome had never been sacked since 387 BC, over 1,000 years ago. The sack was a real sign of decline of the empire, both economically and militarily. With the end of the sack, Alaric soon marched into southern Italy, hoping to sail his way to Africa. But he died at Cosentia, and his successor instead marched north and settled in Aquitaine. Meanwhile in Gaul, the revolt had yet to be cleaned up, so Honorius got himself a new general, Constantius. Constantius would soon defeat Constantine's revolt and bring Gaul back into Roman hands. With the revolts defeated, the Western Roman Empire survived with a massive mark. The last few years of his reign weren't all too troubling, besides the countless revolts and the Western Roman Empire nearly being pulled into a conflict with the East. Honorius would soon die on the 15th of August, 423, but he had no heir. In conclusion, Honorius' reign will probably go down as one of the worst times in Roman history, but blaming this on Honorius is very unfair to the emperor. He may have been very incapable at times, but blaming the downfall on Honorius is an oversimplification. While Honorius has made some silly mistakes during his reign, it's important to note that he ruled a declining and divided empire. The empire was already on a decline before Honorius' reign, and due to the emperor's lack of proper education, he couldn't handle the situation. The same goes for Olympius. He may have been the reason for Stilicho's downfall, but to blame it on him is also unfair to him. So we shouldn't look at Honorius as the reason to the West's downfall. The empire's downfall was a complicated process that was decades in the making. So blaming it on one person is simply very, very unfair to